Hi, Marianne.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Having a good time out there?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. It's fine.
That's good.
Yeah. We just got back. We went on a barn tour.
Oh.
So we're in part of Oregon, probably northeast Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
and there are a lot of farms. It's wheat and hay,
Mm-hmm.
just huge
Mm-hmm.
farms.
Mm-hmm.
And there are all of these, 100-year-old barns. And there's this whole map you can follow.
Oh,
So
cool.
there's that, and then there's the Nez Perce Trail. So the
Uh-huh.
Nez Perce were the Native Americans who um, lived in this area, who still live in this area, but
Mm-hmm.
who lived out here. And that stretches, Oregon, Washington, Idaho. There's always a new Nez Perce site to see.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two things.
Years and
Besides
years ago, I went rafting on the Deschutes River. Are you near there?
the
Deschutes,
Shutes River.
Deschutes, Deschutes, Oregon. Yeah, Deschutes River.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
So we're
Oh,
near the Snake River.
okay. And yeah,
And
I've been by there too. Yeah.
so, yeah,
Cool.
and Hell's Canyon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've
So,
been by there too. Cool.
yeah. So the Snake is the big river out in this part of the sort of inland Northwest.
Uh-huh.
So, but I've never been here before. So,
Oh, nice.
this particular spot that we're in right now.
Cool.
So it's kind of fun. Just to we had to drive over some mountains to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really, windy, climb.
Windy
It
with
was
no guardrail.
very safe. There were guardrails the whole way, but
That's good because sometimes they don't have the guardrails, and that's like,
right. No, it felt very safe. But it took it took 3 hours to get here. But it was because of the road.
mm-hmm.
It's not 3 hours away. People from the place in Idaho where we stay, people will sometimes come over, the farmers, like people with horses, will come over here to get hay. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine doing that, like coming over and hauling a trailer full of hay. But
Yeah.
they, I guess, well, there are tons of farms here. So it's just one
Yeah.
of the, where they come to get that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought when I looked at put together the agenda with Kate yesterday, I suddenly thought a couple things afterwards. I just want to make sure that we have all the dates we need to know about.
Okay.
And then I didn't put it on about the long range plan, and then I was reviewing the minutes and I'm like, oh dear, that needs to be done by the end of September. So if you can just talk about whatever
Right.
you want or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to look at all the comments yet.
Right. And then we also have a survey out.
Mhm. Right.
Somebody has volunteered to sort the survey. So the survey is asking the same questions as at the focus groups. And somebody has volunteered to sort the survey results by sort of the same categories.
Mhm.
So that's great.
That's
it's somebody
good.
who I trust
Good. Okay.
do it. So,
That sounds good.
but I'll close that survey the week after I come back, because I'll come
Mhm.
back and then I'll give it another push, and then we'll do it. And but so you didn't read through those pages and pages of
No,
notes?
I saw it. I forget what I was doing, and I haven't had a chance to get back to it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Because I read through and I was like, oh, I am seeing themes here that
Mhm.
can, like people want opportunities to connect with other people.
Mhm.
And so that, and then there's one other theme. I wrote myself some notes before I left. but one other theme that I can't think of now, that, you know, that are just a little bit different than the goals that we have in the last long range plan.
Mhm. Okay,
So,
good. That's great though.
yeah, yeah,
Get new
yeah.
feedback.
So, yeah. So it was, you know, so it was good. I was like, oh, this actually worked. Like we got people talking and they said
Mm.
stuff. And
Yeah.
then if I read through the stuff, I can, I mean, we certainly can't do everything, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So,
clear in the meeting that I was in too. Like some of the stuff is like, I mean, you're just as you said, you're just one person. Like,
right,
you know, like you
right,
don't have
right,
a lot of staff. You have a part-time person.
right, right.
Yeah.
You know, and I do think like eventually we might start advocating for a little bit more staff, but you know,
Mhm.
a little bit, not,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, not a huge, like the Irving Library has the full-time director and then somebody who works 26 hours a week and
Mhm.
then another person who works 14 hours a week. And, you know, and I'm not saying that that's what we should do, but we could just, you know, just, I mean, I think our first priority is to get this building built.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So,
Hi, Kate.
Hello.
Hi, Melanie.
hello.
Hi.
All right, let's see. Not quite a quorum yet.
How many people is a quorum?
Four
4.
of us.
Brad's coming. I didn't hear from Savannah, but I think I recall that she was on vacation this week. Does anybody else recall that?
I missed last time.
It was, yeah, okay. Maybe it was last time we would have set up this meeting.
Is Tim able to join us? For
I
his
don't
group?
know. I saw him today at a garden club thing and I said, I'll see you tonight, but I don't think he heard me. So I assume so. Hey, Brad.
I can text
When I log
Tim.
in, I get this message that says the host will let you in soon. How does it know the host is going to let me in soon?
Because the host wants you in the meeting. Right?
Well, you
Yes.
hope so, but do you know that?
Okay, do you get a cue that somebody's trying to get in, meeting host?
Oh, Tim just emailed, please send me the link.
Okay, I'll send him the link.
Thank you.
They have to get on it there.
I'll be right there, Chris. I think he found it. I think Tim found it. I'm gonna go let Chris in. I'll be right back.
Zoom user.
Okay. Yeah, he's usually the Zoom user.
Zoom user.
How's everybody's summer going?
Good.
Fine. It's been a different one though, hasn't it? Between extreme heat and then the pouring rain.
Yeah.
Yes. My rant of the day is no. This is not a harbinger of climate change.
Totally.
Harbinger
Yeah.
means it hasn't happened yet. This is
Yeah.
climate change.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Tim's here.
Hey, Tim.
Your first official meeting, am I right?
My first official? No,
Yeah,
no,
as a trustee.
First official, yes.
no, I had one, there was one in the earlier part of July.
Oh, yeah, that was the last one. That's true. No.
Yeah.
No, there wasn't.
No,
No, this is our first
no, the
trustee
end of
meeting.
June. This is the
Yeah.
July meeting,
Yeah,
right?
this is the
We're
first
still in
one.
July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're in July, and so you've been sworn in, Tim?
Yes.
Excellent, me too. All right, we are sworn in and are ready to serve. Hey y'all, I'm going to be your chair tonight. Welcome to Fantasy Library. We are going to, sorry, I'm in a little giddy mood and I'm going with it. So thank you so much to Michelle for putting our agenda together and sending it out. Before we get rolling, does anyone have any additions to the agenda for today?
I thought of something, I told Marianne about already, that she could just remind us of the dates that we need to make sure we can be present for with the MBLC, make sure we all have it on our calendars. And then I just wanted to hear what she had to say about the long range plan. Like, we've already talked, but she can share what she said. So I came on early because I wanted to make sure I was.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll work hard to keep things moving and make space for that, both of those items. Maybe we could do the scheduling at the time of scheduling our last meeting, which is, I know is a thing I always forget, but Brad always reminds me. So at 8:25, that's what we'll do. Okay. So I just want to welcome Tim for his first meeting as a
Thank you.
of the Evans Sphere Library. Congratulations on your election. Speaking of elections, that's our first order of business, is filling the roster of slots that we fill as in our various roles. So we have, right now we have a chair and co-chair structure. That's been working well for me and Michelle, but and then we have a treasurer, and that's Brad. We need a new secretary, and we have someone who is our Melanie, who's our liaison to the Friends, and those are all sort of roles that are named in our bylaws. So just pause to see about the chairpersonship or ships. Michelle, you're ready to continue serving if people would like you to do that?
Sure.
Yes?
Yeah. Mhm.
I will continue serving if Michelle continues to serve. But if anyone else wants to step up, I'm also happy to step back. It's at the pleasure of the body. So can we have a motion to elect Michelle as co-chair?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
That was unanimous. And then, does anyone else wish to serve as co-chair with Michelle?
Can I nominate you as co-chair, Kate?
Thank you so much.
Second the nomination.
All
Okay.
right. All in favor of me?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So that'll stay status quo. Is anyone willing to serve as secretary? This is a really important role, especially as we go into the work for and really get serious about the potential for a new library. If we get the pilot grant, documenting our meetings and making sure that everything is transparent is going to be really important. So is anyone up for that?
I am not, simply because I'm not good at it. I would have to record it and then go through everything slowly. And
But it is recorded, so you can do that. But it-
I sit back and wait for somebody else to volunteer.
Can I just say something that when I was new to the trustees, and I'm not saying that it has to be you, Tim, but I'm just saying that when I was new to the trustees, I volunteered to be the secretary because I felt like it helped me focus, really attend and process what was happening at the meeting. Because there were a lot of things, it was the same thing, like, 10 or 11 years ago, we were talking about a building project, and there was just so much I didn't understand that it was really helpful for me to be the secretary because I had to take the notes and then review them and then bring them to the meeting and all of that. So it helped me process what was going on and helped me learn a lot. So that's just what I'm have to say.
yeah, it
about
did
that.
the same thing for me, Michelle, when I joined, and I
Right.
served as the secretary for a while before I became one of the chairs.
Mhm. So with that said,
That's said, any takers?
I'm not, because I know it won't be good for me. I just know myself.
Melanie, how about you?
I'll do it.
Oh,
Well,
thank you,
yeah.
Melanie.
We
Yeah.
had a plan B, but if someone else can agree to do it, that would be great. Thank you
And
so
then
much, Melanie.
I think if someone, like Melanie, if you can't be there, if you just let me and Kate know, because we tend to swap chairing the meetings, and the other one of us will just take the notes that night.
Okay.
So, I'm
Yeah.
going to do it tonight because I felt like we hadn't elected anybody yet. So I will do
Okay.
it tonight. Okay.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
All right, we need a vote to elect Melanie. I nominate Melanie to be our secretary. And
I second it.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Okay, and then we confirm, Brad, if you're willing to serve as continue to serve as treasurer. Are you willing?
Yes.
All right. A motion?
I nominate Brad to continue to serve as treasurer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Melanie, I don't think that library liaison is a voting position, but are you willing to continue to serve, do a
Sure.
dual role essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with that, so I should talk to Marianne and figure that out.
Oh, but what is that
but-
again? The liaison to the Friends?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
I
Tim
think
was
you're
the
doing-
friend. Tim,
think
would
you're
you like
doing.
to be, you were active in the Friends, would you like to be the liaison with the Friends?
Sure, absolutely. That'd be fine.
That would be really helpful, since you already know everyone and you weren't you on the executive board?
No, I was just a warm body.
A warm body. Okay.
Basically,
Right.
Marianne would call up and say, "Can you do this?" And I'd say, "Yeah." So
Yeah, that's how a lot of it works around here.
I don't know. She might have put me on the. I don't know. I just said, whenever you need something, call me. So she does.
There we go.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I
Well-
will talk to her and I imagine Susie's probably the head of the Friends. I'll clarify the role and make sure that I'm covering the bases.
That's great. All right. And it looks like Savannah's with us.
Looks like it.
Which is awesome. Savannah, we had a quorum and a packed agenda, so we went ahead and rolled through. Your confirmed officers are Michelle and me as the co-chairs, Melanie as the secretary, Brad as treasurer, Tim as liaison to the Friends. And if you are continuing to serve as the records, what's the word, representative, then everyone's got a job to do. Savannah, are you hearing us?
Yes, she has her video turned off and her mic off, but she is
Yeah.
here.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Here's
There she
Savannah.
is.
Hey, good to
Hi,
see
Savannah.
you. Hi.
Hi there.
I have a question, guys. Just today I read an email or document that had the potential dates that we're, in August, et cetera, for these meetings and when trustees might be available. I can't find that email. Does somebody remember the date or?
I asked Marianne to add that to our agenda tonight to make sure we all have that in our calendar.
Yeah, but I did think we had an email and I just can't find it.
Yeah, we did, but I know it's hard to find stuff when you get a lot of emails. So I just asked her if she could review that so we could document it in the minutes, in our minutes, and then also in our calendars.
And
Just
it'll
to
also be
ensure.
in the notes for tonight as
Yes.
well, because Melanie's taking notes. So she'll make, or no, because Michelle's taking notes.
I'm
Sorry,
taking notes, yeah.
Melanie, didn't mean to freak you out. All right. So we've done elections. Michelle and I wanted to let you know that we requested a new email address that is librarytrustees@shutesbury.org. So it's a town address. We wanted to walk the line between being available to people and not having it spill into our other email addresses and sort of keeping it confined. So we asked for this and it's set up. We are empowered by the bylaws as written as chairs to respond to communications, but we set that up like a long time ago and wanted to just sort of discuss the protocol for responding to communications. Right now we have an autoresponder on the email address that says, "Thank you for your email. We'll discuss it at the next meeting." So I wanted to just pause there and see if Michelle or Marianne had anything to add about the new email address before we go into discussing the messages we've already gotten and the protocols for responding.
I don't have a lot to add. I just think that we didn't have this when we had the last building project, and I feel like it will help us um, help the community feel like we're more open to and more accessible and transparent. So if we can, you know, get emails directly from them instead of having to sift through things on Nextdoor or whatever. So I think it'll really be really helpful.
Question?
Brad, you had a question? Go ahead, or comment.
So am I right? The purpose of this is to have an email for anybody who wants to send comments to the library trustees.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds
Um,
good.
And then if we respond to that from our own email and somebody wants to examine all the correspondence, then they theoretically can look at all our emails.
Yeah,
That's
that's why we're not responding from our home. So right now it's set up so that as your chairs, Michelle and I have access to it, and we can respond. We can't confer on responding with each other because that breaks open meeting law. So there's a couple of different ways that we can think about what we want to say when we respond. I should just, y'all probably saw that we decided to put a statement on Nextdoor about, well, some of y'all, if you're on Nextdoor, may have seen, we decided to put a statement up on what we know and what we don't know, kind of about the pilot project and the long range planning input process and how the things related and how they differed, because there was some confusion. A couple of things to note about the way that we handled that. One of us drafted it. We set up a subcommittee pretty on the fly and named that and posted a subcommittee meeting to discuss it. Michelle, Marianne, and me. And then as part of that process, we were like, well, we're just putting this out there, but we'd like people to respond, but I don't really want to get in a bunch of back and forth on Nextdoor. So we came up with a solution of a trustee's email address. So it's all related, okay?
Right. And it turns out other boards have already been using
Yep.
that kind of email address through the Shutesbury.org. Did Melanie, did you have something?
Any other questions or clarifications before we go on with the discussion part of this? So we've received 3 emails so far, at least last time I checked.
That's,
2 of
it's still
them are,
that.
okay, 2 of them are thank you for your Nextdoor post. People are glad to see us do that. And one of them is, yeah, okay, great, but we still want to know exactly how much this is going to cost to build and operate, which of course is an unanswerable question for a building where you don't even know where it is or the square footage. So this is something we're going to have to like negotiate and figure out and hope that we'll be able to get more information out to people about why we can't say that yet and how important their input is in determining those things. So I have a proposal that we, anytime we get thanked, we just say, appreciate it, feel seen or whatever. And that's a simple, either Michelle or I can do that. And then when we have a more complex question, that we do what we say the autoresponder is going to do, which is bring it to the meeting to discuss how we might want to respond. So I'm going to just pause there and see if there's discussion about this.
I have a question. How do all of us see those emails, or do we?
Well, that's a good question right now, because if all of us see them, then I think it's going to be really difficult. This is difficult, right? Because transparency amongst us is also a good thing. And all of us are going to know what the contents are, need to know what the contents of anything that has to be discussed are. So there's that point. But then the other thing is like, I'm anxious about developing like a group mentality about this that might lead to just because people are used to the group thread concept, for most of their lives. But this is a situation where that's not only inappropriate, but illegal. So I open it to the body on how best to, like, should everyone have access to it and you just read and you don't respond and leave the responding to me or Michelle? Or do we just keep it trust to the body and Michelle and me that will just say, gee, thanks to the nice stuff and bring anything complex to the meeting? It's what are people, there's just two ways to go. There may be others.
I'm happy having you to bring forth anything that you felt we need to know. I suspect a lot of the stuff won't fit that bill. And personally, I like having your filter. Appreciate your filter.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, we elected you as co-chairs, and with that comes, you know, the understanding, at least for me, that I trust you, that you're going to be able to evaluate, you know, what could be, you know, even something that may be an answerable, you know, not a totally positive question, but something that's very answerable, you know, that you could just respond to and there wouldn't be controversy about, and, you know, you wouldn't need to bring it to the meeting. And I feel like I just trust your judgment on that. And those things that you need to bring to the meeting, you'll bring to the meeting, and we'll talk about them. Yeah.
But I see Mary Ann. Go
So
ahead.
it's typical for the chair of the committee to have an email and manage the email on behalf of the board. So I, and it would be problematic for 6 different people to be replying to emails. This is a
We
named
couldn't have that.
thing.
We
Yeah.
couldn't have that.
Yes. Yeah.
But if people feel like they need to see them as they come in or whatever, we could make some arrangement to auto forward or something like that. So is there a request for that? Like an auto forward to another address that's not, as long as you don't respond, you can't respond, but.
I agree with Melanie and Brad.
Great.
I think it's really important, because the last time we did have, one particular person that was responding on behalf of all of the trustees, and we didn't always know what was being said. So that became sort of problematic at times. So I think that us bringing this stuff to you, and then we problem solve about how to handle the hard ones. Otherwise, the nice things are really easy to say thank you for your support, but and the one that we do need to answer somehow, it's just that we don't have all that information yet. There's so many unknowns, and we hear her concerns for sure. Yeah, Marianne?
So I have an idea about how we answer that particular question. So this, because this is a question among people who, generally aren't supporters of the idea of a larger library. So I think we just answer it with we can't give you any specifics because the building hasn't been designed yet, but our goal is to design a building that is as economical as possible, that is energy efficient, or even possibly creates all of its own energy so that it has low energy costs. And and somebody else is going to have to come up with a phrase that means what I'm going to bumble through saying, that is efficient in the workflow. So, we're not going to build a 3-story building that needs a staff person on each floor.
Right.
We're going to build a building that's designed to be managed by a small staff. So, but there's got to be a nicer way to say that.
Efficient workflow. That's absolutely
efficient workflow. Okay, there, I started out right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. And I think we could respond directly to that person with an answer.
Yeah.
And I think we could also include it. I'm thinking that we are going to need another talking points document. We've called it a message box in the past. It's the same kind of thing. And we've got a lot of it, right? Because that's what we were writing when we wrote these responses to questions. We've got a bunch of them. And I think, my experience is that during the course of an effort to accomplish something together, just making sure that everyone knows, the right answer to questions, and the effective answer to questions is super important. So I hope that we captured a lot of what Marianne just said, because it sounded pretty good to me. I think there's a piece of it which is like, if you go to an architect and say, build me a house, what's the light bill? It's a little like that. And I don't want to say it quite like that because that sounds like a put down, but there needs to be some sort of metaphor for how it's not that we're not telling you, it's that it's not possible to know. So
It might be helpful when that answer is given to be prepared for the question, well, when will you know?
yeah, we'll know when. It's a really good question. I'm assuming that the answer is we'll know when we have a building design and a bid. We will know what the construction costs are. We may ask, I think we should ask, as part of the design program, what the operating costs of a building like this are likely to be. If as Marianne says, we're working hard to build it to be sort of energy neutral, then there's certainly a lot of state grants that were not available in the last process that are available, and some even required now, so that we can get support that was not available last time for those costs, but that will keep the operating costs down as much as we possibly can.
What do you think of, I think the timeline will get revised and revised as things progress, likely. How about incorporating into the timeline estimated dates for knowing the building cost and the operating cost?
I'm not sure we want to say something that we don't know yet, even if it's estimated, because it gives people an opportunity to say, see, you're not doing what you said you were going to do. I think what we do is we lay out the major milestones in the process and, and say, around here, but we don't actually have a date. We don't have a date when we'd get a bid back, right? Because we don't know whether we're not out to bid. So that's so far ahead of where we're at, but maybe others have better answers. Go ahead, Brad.
We've been in this pilot project process for some months, and it feels like every month what we know has changed, gotten clearer, but also dates have moved. Everything's been in flux, and for many understandable reasons. So that makes me feel like, yes, it's really hard to pin down dates. It's hard to pin down what we'll know when, because the process isn't pinned down.
Right.
We're still relying on the MBLC to figure out exactly what's going to go on.
Yeah, and I agree, and I would, before I get to you, Marian, I would just say that this is the pilot part, right? This isn't a process that anyone's gone through before. So, why this is the reason that they're trying new things and giving a larger share of the fixed costs, is that they're experimenting with us and learning from this. Marianne, go ahead.
So there's, we also want to just keep reminding people that this is a competitive grant that we have not gotten. Okay, so it may be another 5 or 6 years before any of this gets to a point where we have any cost estimates. And then I forget the other thing I was going to say. So when it comes back to me, I'll raise my hand and I'll write it down next time with my little notebook here. Okay.
So that's the
But I
thing
think we need
that I
to,
think we reinforce too with people that when it is a pilot project, you don't always have all the answers. I participated in lots of pilot things in my career, and yeah, people get nervous and uncomfortable, but I think we all have to be okay with that because, you know, we're the people that are going to try to help support the community and understanding what's going on. So we have to feel comfortable with that ourselves, I think.
So, excuse me, a plus with the pilot project is for the library that wins, they cover more money. And a negative with
Right.
the pilot project is they're designing it as they go.
Yeah,
That's a,
that's right. This is the trade-off
yeah.
of, you know, being a guinea pig. There's a reward for running the experiment, but it's still an experiment. All right. So actually, we have segued beautifully through the agenda. We've discussed the chair's ability to communicate publicly when necessary. Now, we talked about this in the context of the email address, but it's not the only one. So it's easy to imagine circumstances under which we might either face or want to answer media questions. We might want to submit letters to the editor or op-eds. There's different ways we're going to want to continue communicating. I think, you know, strategically on social media. So I wanted to just check in and see a few things. So we already did this. So if that's a problem, I guess I'm begging forgiveness now. We are allowed to do it as the bylaws are written, but before we go all empowering us, I'd love sort of further confirmation, like not just answering emails, but answering reporter calls, soliciting reporter calls, drafting LTEs. These are things that are always difficult to do by committee and can't happen rapidly by committee in some cases. Like, you know, if the reporter wants to talk to you, they want to talk to you at 11, the deadline is 3. So I just want to pause and see whether people feel confident in the same process for the email as for social and what we call earned media in the biz. That Michelle and I would either respond individually, or if we needed to huddle, we would form a rapid-ish working group. That needs to have 48 hours of posting, so it's not good for really rapid stuff, but it might be good for, okay, we're seeing this question bubble up from people, and it now seems like a good time to answer it. So again, pausing for questions or discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I totally support that. I think that it might be wise for us to have one media spokesperson. And I mean, certainly if the reporter can't reach the person who's the main person, then yes, the co-chair. But I think that it would make sense. And I would like to recommend that it be you, Kate, because I think that you're, you know, I think it seems to me that you're used to talking to media. I could be wrong about that, but you know, I think that, you know, you would be probably the best person to be speaking to the media. And then if you're not available, then Michelle as co-chair would take those questions, and then you guys could, you know, create that subcommittee to you know, draft the op-eds, and if there's time, certainly bring them to the whole committee. But you know, there's often not time for that. I mean, you're right. We need rapid response for this kind of thing.
You have other thoughts about that?
I think subsequent to any response, it would be helpful to let everybody know what the query was and what the response was, so that if somebody in town talks to us and say, well, this was said, and I don't think any of us want to be caught cold turkey saying, well, we don't even know, we didn't even read the article.
Right.
So I would like to know what's being said after it's been said.
Go ahead, Marianne.
So after it's been said, it's So the trustees cannot communicate with other trustees outside of the meetings. So Kate can't send a letter to the community and then turn around and send it to the Board of Trustees outside, because that would be a violation of open meeting laws.
Can you
So
do it, Marianne, as a staff person? Can you communicate with your board?
I can do it. Yes.
Brad, you had a question?
And everything
sorry.
will be put out on a town announce and on social, anything we'd send out. Like I sent out that letter as a town announce. But yes, I can send stuff. Okay.
So
Brad, you had a question? Oh, sorry, Tim, and then Brad, I think.
no, Brad had first.
Go ahead, thank you.
I'm a little puzzled. It seems like we ought to be able to somehow share, if an article went out, the whole trustees would want to know what the article is. And are you saying that the only way we could do that is for Marianne to send it? So
Yeah.
if, for instance, if someone in the media talks to Kate and Kate talks with them and an article results, then Marianne can inform us, all the trustees. Okay, that works for me. I mean, I
Right.
agree with Tim. We want to know what's out there. And so if there's a
Absolutely.
path, and if that path is through Marianne, that's great.
Right.
I had
I can send it to you. Then you cannot talk
Yeah.
amongst yourselves.
And-
So you really shouldn't even do things like "Great job, everyone,"
Yeah.
which sometimes we do because
It's
we
hard
have
not to sometimes, yeah.
enthusiasm, right? So you should never reply all, ever. Like it shouldn't even be a thing. I don't even know why it's a thing in email. Some horrible person created reply all. But you should never reply all. And if we're scheduling a meeting, if we're just scheduling a meeting, that's a little bit different. That's sort of considered housekeeping. But other than that,
Sending a
you-
more detailed agenda is allowed though, right?
yes,
Business
yeah.
things like setting up agendas. Yeah, when this
Yeah.
came up about us wanting to meet to talk about how to respond to the comments on Nextdoor, I
Yeah.
reread the open meeting laws because I was surprised myself that
They've
Kate and I
changed.
couldn't have a conversation. Yeah, I was surprised, but so I sat and
Yeah.
reread them.
Yeah.
And I think if we felt like it was something that we needed to discuss, then it goes to the next meeting and it
Right.
becomes part of our agenda. And then
Right.
we're
Yeah.
perfectly allowed to discuss it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And this is
Okay.
going to sound obvious, but I think that everyone should have Kate and Michelle's cell phone numbers at their fingertips so that if we are approached by media, that we say, actually, the best person for you to talk to, like our media spokespeople, media spokesperson is this person,
Yeah.
and, if you can't reach her, then, here's this other person's number,
Okay.
as opposed to
That's-
making our
that's
own
fine.
comments.
It's fine.
Marianne?
And then everybody should be signed up to get those town announce email lists, that town announce email. And everybody should be reading the library news. Anything I send out, you should be reading. Um, so,
Agreed. All right. We have gotten to I think, so I didn't hear any objection. I heard confirmation that we want to proceed as we've proceeded regarding these kinds of things. So we'll leave well enough alone there. And move on to the next item. Anything further on the pilot project? Any updates, any news? Marianne? No?
So Brad and I and a couple of volunteers looked at some land. We looked at the land behind Town Hall, which we considered last time around. So we have to select a site by September 30th. Lot 032 has some, that building has to come down, and there's some automotive shop debris that has to be cleaned up. The rain, is it still raining? The rain has created a barrier to getting dumpsters and trucks in there. And it also has created scheduling issues for the contractor who's been hired to do the demolition on the building. So anyway, so Brad and Michael Broad and Penny Jakes and I, Michael Broad was on the first library building committee and as a contractor. Penny Jakes was on the Conservation Commission. And Brad is an architect and a library trustee. Okay. So we went and we looked at the land behind Town Hall, which we had considered before. And then we also looked at a privately owned parcel of land just down Cooley Hill Road, just like 300 feet down Cooley Hill Road, going towards Route 202, across the street from the library. And then we went and we looked at Lot 032. We have staked out a potential site for a new library at Town Hall and a couple of spots where we would do a perk test. I think in order for us to sort of do our due diligence with our site selection, we need to do some preliminary site selection work at Town Hall, and and then when that cleanup work is done at Lot 032, I have a plan there for targeted soil testing, because whether or not there is a perception about hazardous material contamination there, whether or not there is actual hazardous material contamination there, and the only way we're going to change that perception amongst the townspeople is to do further testing. So I went to the last select board meeting last Tuesday, and I asked for permission to do perk tests behind Town Hall. I'm going to do a perk test in 2 different areas, and to do a phase 1 environmental screening, which is the initial screening that the MBLC requires. And then based on that screening, you may or may not need to do more. And Town Hall seems like a potentially breeze through site in that way. And it also looks like it will perk, and it looks like it will, there's not a whole lot of wetlands back there. We won't have any wetlands delineated now, but that's what I plan to do behind Town Hall. And then once that cleanup work is done at Lot 032, we'll do some targeted soil testing there. And if it shows something, it shows something. And the other thing we're going to do is test. There are test wells there. So a number of years ago, the town agreed to put in some monitoring wells. And I'm going to see if we can test the water in those 2 test wells. Not for PFAS, because PFAS, if it, when we're actually building a building, we'll test the well water for PFAS, but you can filter for PFAS. We'll be testing for other things. And then just know, okay. And so behind Lot 03, behind Town Hall, there's the field that we can all see. And then the town owns another 20 acres behind that. We got to be able to find a well back there. Right. And then Lot 032, so the test wells are up pretty close to the road. Lot 032 is 22 acres. If the front part is free, but there's an issue with the water, like salt, that's I would say that's our biggest concern, being close to the road, is salt, and close to the highway department. But with 22 acres that stretches, pretty far back, it seems like we'd be able to find a well back there too. So I have plans. When I get back, I will do I'll schedule a perk test and I'll find out how to, I'll have to probably go out for bid for the phase 1 environmental screening. And then I think what I think I'll do is I'll rope in together the phase 1 environmental screening behind town hall and the targeted soil testing, because it's the same type of company that does the two, and have it be one company that does all of that work and gets the reports to us. And the select board agreed with all of that last Tuesday at their meeting. And I did that meeting from the Potlatch Library in Potlatch, Idaho. I emailed a library in the other direction asking if they had Wi-Fi, because I just wanted to make sure, and they didn't say on their website, and they said even better, you can go to the Potlatch Library. It's the same distance in the other direction, and we'll let you use a meeting room. So I took pictures. I'll send them to you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So,
Great.
it's a very cute library.
Story.
But now I'm in a condo that has Wi-Fi. So, anyway, so that's one part of the small library project, is that site selection, and that's kind of the biggest piece of work that needs to be done. And we need to do that work because we have this issue at Lot 032 that people keep bringing up. So anyway, I just want to cover our bases. And then the other thing is, I'll just give the dates of those two meetings. So the Board of Library Commissioners is coming out on August 3rd at 1 o'clock. And that's going to be an in-person meeting at Town Hall. It's posted as a trustees meeting. It's posted as a finance committee meeting. It's posted as a select board meeting. So I do think that a quorum of the select board will be there, if not the whole select board. And I think many of the finance committee members will be there. And this meeting will really be run by the Board of Library Commissioners. But it would be good, I just think we want to show a strong support, if we can. So that's August 3rd. And then they're coming out August 17th for a public meeting at the Shutesbury Athletic Club, under the pavilion at 6:30 p.m. And I asked if we could use the elementary school gym, because I'm afraid the town hall just wouldn't be able to accommodate enough people, but the school is not. The elementary school gym is never available to us in the summertime. It's always either having the floors refinished, or it's being used for storage for other rooms that are having the floors refinished or painted or something. So it continues to not be available to us. And I question the ventilation anyway. And then, so the athletic club, the pavilion is outdoors, but covered. So, and they're very accommodating, the athletic club. So,
What was the time of that one? The
6:30
Tuesday?
p.m. Because I thought that gave everybody time to get home from work and have something to eat and then come out. The club is not currently open on Tuesday evenings, and I think that's actually good, but they're going to make the bathrooms available to us. And I'm also using the club for an 8-week Tai Chi class on Thursday mornings. So anyway, some club members have questioned whether or not they should ask the library to pay for use. Other club members don't feel comfortable with that. So we've agreed that the night of this community meeting, we'll have a bake sale, and the proceeds will be split between the Friends of the Library and the Shutesbury Athletic Club, which that feels fine. That feels good to me. And, I think baked goods at the community meeting are fine. Alcohol, less fine. But if the club decides that they're open on Tuesday evenings, it's their club. So.
Tammy had something? Yeah, go ahead.
What was the location of the August 3rd meeting? And is it
Town
Town hall.
and it's a public meeting?
It has to be.
Any posted meeting of a town board as a public meeting, but here's what town hall is planning to do. So the capacity of town hall is not what it used to be. So if we're asking people to be 6 feet apart, at town hall, masks are encouraged. And boy, I'm reading about the Delta variant. I'm not being in any indoor places without a mask on. But the select board can't require masks, but they're encouraging masks. But what they're going to do is the boards get to be in the building. So the trustees, the finance committee, the select board, and then members of the public can watch on Zoom. So, and that's how the town clerk has decided to accommodate that. There won't be any public comment portion of that meeting.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
That's really good to know.
Yeah.
And the time of that one on the 3rd?
On the 3rd is 1 p.m. That gives me time to have flight delays, probably.
Not like that ever happens.
On the 17th, is the MLBC running that meeting?
Yes,
Okay. And is there public comment there?
that
Or
is
if
all
that-
public comments.
That's the whole purpose.
Yeah, the whole
Yes.
purpose is
Yeah.
public input and response to questions. So we want to talk that meeting up, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
we really want people at that meeting.
We do. So we want to talk it up. We want to do outreach. We definitely want to, hear a diversity of viewpoints, and we'd love to have good support there. But I think we want to, I'm sure MBLC wants this too. They want a frank, sharing of what we do know. And again, explanation of why there's some stuff that we can't know yet. I think would be really helpful. While we're on the subject of dates, I wondered if we could select our next meeting date now, because in my ideal world, we would meet as a body after the first one and before the second, and our normal meeting time would be, I believe, the 16th of August, that Monday evening, and just wanting to check with people whether that's possible to get a quorum in that week in August. Sometimes it's hard.
I can be there.
I can be there.
Yeah, I can be there.
That
I'm
works.
away on the 16th.
Okay,
I mean,
it's August. People go
I'm
away.
away for that whole week, actually.
Yeah, good for you. I think I might be away for some of that week, but I will definitely be on that call.
Do we have any need to meet before then? I mean, is the 9th better than the 16th? Is the 16th too close to the 17th?
No, that's a really good point. If people could do, that's really smart, Brad.
I agree. I think that makes more sense, Brad. I like that idea.
9th is good.
Okay.
Oh, and what
I
about
can
you,
do it.
Melanie? Are you available
do
on
it.
the 9th?
Yep.
Tim, 9th? Oh, thumbs up. All right, Brad, you win. The 9th it is.
Okay.
Thank you so much for making that great suggestion.
Regular time, 7:30?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Putting it on my calendar now. That would be good. That'll give us some time to process what we heard at the first meeting. And again, it's MBLC's meeting. I would really love some guidance from them, Marianne, in advance of our meeting about whether there is a role that they want trustees to play in that meeting. I think it might be wise for some of the communication or messages to be carried by local people. And not just the trustees, but the trustees as elected representatives. So if you could find out about that, that'd be super helpful. Right, look how the whole agenda just goes. So we did talk about the dates. The other thing that we were going to add to our agenda was, Michelle, I'm sorry, I lost track of it.
Oh yeah, well, we didn't do the minutes for one thing, and the other one was, let's see. Oh, the long range plan, like if Marianne can just give us more of an idea again, of like, because it's due the end of September.
Yeah.
It's actually due,
Got a lot on your plate.
I'm actually 99.999% sure that it's due the end of the year.
Oh, that would be
But
lovely.
Art, there is like so much due. And the grant, and I would like to like have it done because the grant application is due December 3rd. And so, so I did the focus groups. I sent everybody the notes. The survey is still out there. When I get back, I'm going to do another push on the survey and then have it be due at the end of the week. I have a volunteer who has agreed to take the survey responses and sort them into the same categories as the focus groups. And, which is just great. It's great that somebody else can sort the responses. And then I already see some themes in the notes from the focus groups. I see that people want opportunities to make community connections. And I think that we could have a goal. A goal could be, create opportunities to facilitate community connections. What's a better goal than that? And then I have some other notes that I don't have. Well, they're on this computer somewhere, but as I read through those, there are some sort of themes that come up that I think make a lot of sense. And certainly a lot of people are asking for more space and more facility. And so we'll have a goal that, we can take the goal right out of the last long range plan about preparing to build a new library for the community. But if you read through those notes and themes come up, remember, we're going to have 3 to 5 goals in this long range plan. And then a community profile, some demographic information, so if you read through the notes and themes come up for you, let me know what those are, or if you have any goals to suggest. And then I think it's something that, so last time we did this, Kate and Brad and I met, and and it could be something like that where a small subcommittee meets and we of people who read the last plan and who are willing to help get together this new plan. And then it would just be great if we could have it ready to approve at the September meeting, which I think we can, because we're not talking about a dozen pages.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask that actually, whether you need a sort of a review committee, a working group that reviews. And we definitely have people with interest and skills in that. Can I ask for an extension of maybe 5 to 8 minutes on tonight's meeting? Are people okay with that? Yeah, we had a lot of work to do tonight. So could we now form that subcommittee to support Marianne for the long range plan first, and then there may be pieces of other communications that need to happen where Marianne needs another set of eyes or support from trustees, and then maybe that committee could continue with the same or different membership. But why don't we make a little standing review committee? Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah, I'll volunteer for that.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. Anyone else want to volunteer? I think it can have it can't be more than 2 people, because
even if it's 2 people, it has to be posted.
Right.
That, which is fine. That's fine. But
yeah.
I think there's a thing like you have to keep it below your quorum. for it to
Right,
be a subgroup. And so I guess it's
right.
2 or 3 people. Anyone
And
else want
two
to?
is actually plenty, you know,
Yeah, you
because,
don't want like
right.
everyone giving you billions of comments. Anyone else want to serve on the review committee?
I have a question. I
Yeah.
thought there was someone outside of the Board of Trustees that has been very helpful to Mary Ann in reviewing documents and stuff.
Yeah.
And uh, perhaps Mary Ann would be most comfortable continuing in the same fashion. That's just a question.
It's a really good question. Thank you. It's a great question.
No, actually, I think there are some documents that trustees should help review. And then some documents not. And so, and I have, we have a whole posse of editors in Shutesbury. There's some,
Really good ones. Yeah. Yeah.
and even people who don't live in Shutesbury, so, who sometimes read through things, because it's good when you're writing something. It's good to have somebody else read it and see if they understand it
For
before
sure.
you. So
Brad,
okay.
go ahead.
Would this be anything you would be looking for people to read before the 3rd?
No.
Okay, then
No,
I
I
can
don't think
volunteer.
Okay.
Excellent.
I didn't know that first.
It's before the
Excellent.
September meeting, right?
All right. Yeah. So listen.
Yeah.
So Brad and Melanie, the long range plan, there's a link to it in the sidebar on the website. So, and it's
Yeah.
not very long. If you could read that and then read those notes, you know, and I made a long range plan webpage. And let's see if there's a tab called long range planning, and then I put a link to the long range plan right there. And then I put the notes from the gathering there. So that's good. That's good preliminary information. Okay.
Excellent.
So as we think about what the next long range plan should look like.
Okie dokie. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brad and Melanie, for volunteering review services. So we just have a couple of orders of business. The things that we usually do first, we're going to do last. The minutes, I was not at the last meeting, and so I cannot effectively guide the minute conversation. Michelle, do you mind if I turn it over to you for that bit?
No, that's fine. So did anybody have any comments or questions? I had one thing I was hoping maybe Mary Ann could clarify for us, but so maybe I'll just bring that up then. It was down in the main body of the notes, second to the last sentence. I think Michelle wrote this twice, that the trustees have to approve the site, but it's just, I feel like it needs to be clarified a little bit more in that second to last sentence. It says, once the town approves the site, final approval is up to the library trustees, but the town seems like too broad to me. I assume the select board? I don't know. Can you clarify for us?
Yeah, so I would say this is the site for the new library.
Yeah.
Okay. So what other site would it be? So I would say that the trustees, since we don't have like a lift neck, so that the trustees would choose a site and then get approval from the select board. So the select board is in charge of property. So the select board, so we already have permission to use lot 032. We would then need to ask permission to use the land behind town hall. So I'll do this preliminary site selection work. I've created a little team of sort of local expertise to help me with that. And you know, they're unofficial, but they're just, but this is not like, this is really sort of on the fly and fast. And so we need to do it this way. And then once we have that information, then the trustees would ask the select board for permission to use we would ask, we would give them a report on, we would give them a report for all of that site selection work that we do, and then say what we think is the better site and ask permission to use it. And then the select board
okay.
can decide.
So I'll amend that sentence
Okay.
then, based on what you just said. That was my assumption, but I felt like it wasn't
Okay.
really clear. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other comments or questions about the minutes that Michelle took? Okay, does anybody want to?
Can I ask, I don't think that the mediated or facilitated meetings were on this agenda. And I know
They
you
weren't.
already asked, they weren't. Have we finished everything? Well, go ahead and finish the meetings and then.
Yeah, why don't we just finish this
Okay,
minutes
okay.
then? Anybody, does anybody
Yeah,
have
finish
any?
I
the
have a
minutes.
suggestion about the minutes, which is that we postpone approving them until our next meeting. And the reason for that is
Okay.
you're going to amend a fairly complicated sentence, and it will be
Okay.
quicker for you to do that and represent, if that's okay, Michelle.
That's absolutely fine.
Everyone okay with that?
I'll revise it and send it out, make sure it's clear. Because that was
Okay.
fuzzy to me, so.
Yeah, great. I would propose then that Marianne, you get 1 minute to give us any highlights from the director's report, and then we go over and spend, if people have time, again, we're over time, to get a few minutes debrief on the mediated sessions. Any opposition to proceeding as I named? All right, go Marianne, director's report highlights.
Oh, I have to bring it back up. How about, does anybody have any? So there's a lot of technology issues that I'm working on, and that takes a lot of time, and it's not any fun. And, and families are still responding well to summer reading kits, although I don't think that's on there. And I can't find it right now. So
That's
did
okay.
anybody have any questions about the director's report? And then those dates. So those dates that we already talked about and the pilot project, we've already talked about a lot of the director's report. So,
Marianne, when did you send out the report? I don't remember seeing it.
so I sent it before I left.
Okay.
So
been a
All
little
right,
while.
I'll look for it
yeah,
then.
yes.
I probably read it and just forgot.
Right. And I think that's the document that Tim read that had all the dates on it, but he couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah, I have it here now. So
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
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 Are there questions for Marianne about the director's report? We approve as sort of a pro forma matter, and I think we could take the 10 seconds next time that it'll take to do this one in minutes at the same time.
Yeah,
And so that we can, I'm sorry, I have been on Zoom since 8:30 this morning. I'm about toasted. So just like a few minutes, Marianne, debrief and download on the mediated sessions.
Okay.
So questions.
Okay, good. All righty. So there was that conversation on Nextdoor that I haven't looked at. So I don't know if there's anything more going on there, but there were people who, there were misconceptions about the library's long-range planning process, and there was a sort of a desire expressed for mediated conversations about the small library project. So I feel like we should have a series of mediated conversations about the small library project. So I've called an organization, and I feel like we should have public meetings about that. This would be after the August 17th session, because that's coming up quickly. But I think there are going to be lots of questions and a lot of people who want to talk about the library. And some people aren't going to feel comfortable coming out to a meeting that isn't mediated. So I think we've had a request, and why not honor that request and have some facilitated meetings for people to come out and ask their questions and share their feelings about the library now, the process 10 years ago, and what they think of this process. So I've called an organization, and I'm fine with being wrong. That is, so Savannah used to work for an organization called the Mediated Project or something like that in Greenfield, and they've morphed and they have a new name. And I spoke to somebody there also last week, and he was going to speak to a couple of people and get back to me. Um, uh, he thinks these meetings would have 2 facilitators, and it would just be us saying, we know that this is a big thing for the town of Shutesbury and that we're not all on the same page, and we want to hear from everybody, and we want you to feel safe to say whatever it is you want to say, and that we can then say, we heard you. We may not agree with everybody. In fact, we won't agree with everybody because we're all different people and we don't all agree with each other. But I think we need to be actively soliciting opinions and input from the community. And it might be good to start with some facilitative meetings.
Question. So
Yeah.
I think we have segued from the long range planning process
Right.
into community
This would be
discussions
just
the
about the
pilot
small
project.
library pilot.
Yeah. And I very much feel that I agree with what you're saying. I feel that whatever we can do to make people comfortable to talk would be great. And having a mediated meeting sounds perfect.
And it's not something, I don't think it's something you have to vote on. And we could certainly talk about this at that August 9th meeting. But so here's what I'd say. It's 8:40 p.m. Why don't you email me individually? Don't reply all, your thoughts about this. And then when I have more information, because I don't have a whole fleshed out proposal yet, when I have more information, I can share it with all of you. I think I would ask the Friends of the Library to pay for this, and it wouldn't be very expensive. Um, and I think, like we're going to have to do a couple of different types of sort of soliciting information just about the small library project. And this would be about sort of just us really saying, okay, we hear you that you find it hard to talk to us. So we're going to try and talk to you in a way, or listen to you in a way that some of you have asked us to listen to you. And I think we're a small town. Let's do what we can to be really nice and open about it.
I really like this idea. I like also your suggestion, Marianne, about giving some individual feedback to you. I have some definite thoughts about process and separating kinds of conversations from each other, so that, the discussion about the process last time is separate from where we're going to build it if we get to build it this time. And so I think that just sort of getting the groundwork of conversations and hard feelings out, and I will have, a lot that I want to hear there. And then, but trying to separate that from the other questions about costs and the new process, it seems important to me. So I'm just I use the chair's prerogative for tonight and say that I'll give you more detailed feedback, but I really think we'll be wise to separate some stuff out if we can. Any other comments before we wrap up tonight?
I think it's a great idea, Marianne. I mean, we had those listening sessions last time that we tried to facilitate ourselves, and a lot of us didn't have those skills, and in the groups
We
were
had a
really small.
facilitator last time, actually, for the listening sessions.
I don't remember there being one at the one I was at.
Rob Beck. volunteered.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot.
So,
Yeah,
but I think having someone who doesn't live in town
I agree. Yeah,
would be really, really good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And someone
Yeah.
who, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Anything else for us before we wrap? Last call. All right. So then just a huge thank you to Mary Ann for doing this from vacation. You should get back to it.
All righty. Okay. I'm going to go have an elk burger. So,
All
all
right.
right. Thanks,
Good night.
everybody.
All right.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay. Good
Night,
night.
everyone.
Good night.